Hey, Will, take it.
That's right. Good morning to all. So we're talking about crypto venture and the $2.5 billion fund, fresh for Paradigm here. Coinbase co-founder Fred Ehrstrom and former Sequoia partner Matt Huang have raised $2.5 billion for the next generation of cryptocurrency investments. This follows on an A16Z investment round or funding round of $2.2 billion earlier this summer. It also follows a nice report from CoinDesk in October that Paradigm was raising $1.5 billion. Turns out that number was a little bit higher. Zach, you wrote the story. I'm going to throw this one to you. That's a ton of money pouring into the ecosystem.
It is a ton of money. Wrote the story. Remember reporting this out in October with Ian Allison. According to documents seen at that time, it was going to be around 1.5 billion, depending on how much was chipped in by some of the partners involved in Paradigm itself. But yeah, 2.5 billion. This is the biggest thing since sliced bread in crypto VC. So I think we can think about Paradigm and A16Z really sort of leading the charge when it comes to investing in startups across the space. So yeah, big number. I mean, the timing worked out well for them, right? Crypto assets near all-time highs. I'm sure people were trying to rush in to get checks into this fund, which has been pretty successful to date. So makes sense that they would be, I guess, oversubscribed to this high degree. And it's going to be interesting to see how they start scattering these bets because, yeah, man, this crypto stuff just won't quit, won't go away. So those are my thoughts on this one. I'm going to kick it back to you. It is interesting to see this two-horse race between Paradigm and A16Z up at the top of the crypto VC world. But yeah, Will, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll add a bit more to your thought there on A16Z and Paradigm before I hand it down to Jen. But A16Z has obviously been around for quite a while. Like, they are the dominant player in the VC industry, and their investments are everywhere, not just in the cryptocurrency space. In fact, I'd believe that they'd be more outside the cryptocurrency space than inside it. But Paradigm is more of a cryptocurrency native VC firm. Of course, Fred Ehrstrom co-founded Coinbase. Matt Huang used to be with Sequoia. So they have this VC background, but they're really crypto natives themselves. And I think this $2.5 billion fund speaks to the fact that this isn't going anywhere. Like, crypto is only getting larger. There's only more money pouring into it. And these crypto native VC firms are now competing with the mainstream VC firms that used to just invest in Web2 tech. They used to invest in the Facebooks and the YouTubes of the world. Well, now the paradigm is completely switching now, and we're moving over to crypto land and Web3 investments. Jen, I'll throw it to you.
You set me up so well for my comment. So I wanted to talk about a quote that Fred Ehrstrom said. This was published in the Financial Times. He said, "The biggest companies in the world are large internet tech companies powered by network effects. We think decades into the future, it's very clear the largest entities in the world will be powered by tokens." So that's, their vision for the future. I think he's dead on, and we can just see that, people with a lot of money are making big bets on this future. Zach, I'll pass it back up to you.
Yeah, and you mentioned Matt from Sequoia, right? Sequoia itself restructured its funds recently so that it could get in the token investing game, which it's sort of a latecomer to that space. But clearly, I think Silicon Valley is very animated by the opportunities that exist around Web3 and sort of this idea of the ownership economy, where instead of platforms owning that value, the users of those platforms can own that value through tokens. Whether or not that ultimately plays out and this becomes something that works in the real world rather than just venture capital funds holding the big bags and everyone else just sort of picking up the crumbs, that's still to be determined. But the picture here is, okay, a new way to rethink the internet in which users are owning and deciding how these platforms operate. And that's why I think we're seeing such big money pour into some of these funds, some of these vehicles. But I'm going to toss it back to you, Jen.
Is this the biggest fund in history? I think I saw
Not
something
in history,
that said but I'm not sure.
In crypto land, yeah, the 2.2 billion from A16Z, which was its third fund, that was announced in June, I think. That at the time was the biggest. So 2.5 billion puts it up there at the top of the list in terms of biggest crypto venture funds in the world. I think it's not unheard of that we're going to see this number topped. Inflation is real. Where's Naomi when we need her? But for now, Paradigm is the top dog when it comes to who has the biggest war chest for crypto investments. It's Paradigm. You better believe it. All right, back to you, Will.
Yeah, just to kind of wrap up the segment here, it's interesting to look at Paradigm's history, and they've always been on point, and they're a very different VC firm than the traditional VC firms. I think VC firms in general are drifting more towards Paradigm, and I think some really salient examples of that are that Paradigm just hires research associates for the purpose of doing research, not for anything else, but just doing research. They have one of the best cybersecurity members on their team, Samson, and he goes out and just wrecks protocols, goes finds what their problems are, and just like responsible disclosures on them. I don't see other VC firms really doing that, but I think more VC firms are going to be doing that going forward. And a lot of Paradigm's bets over the years have played out. Coinbase obviously was probably the biggest one that we saw this year with their stake in that when it went public. That paid out handsomely. So just around the board, like Paradigm is killing it. And it's not surprising to see them raise so much money. Jen, I'll throw it to you for the next topic, though.
All right. We are heading off to the metaverse. Surprise, surprise. So Barbados is set to become the first sovereign nation to have an embassy in the metaverse. The Barbadian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade signed an agreement on Sunday with Decentraland for their very first digital embassy. Now, we've spoken a lot on the show about metaverses, and I've brought up in the past the law and borders in the metaverse. And now we're seeing a country launch, I don't even know if launch is the right word, but launch an embassy in a metaverse. And so, Zach, what does this signal to you when you read this story?
Well, first of all, talk to me like I'm 5. What is this? Jen, help me. I need an adult. What is going on? What is happening? What does this mean?
I also need an adult. So it looks like Barbados is looking to snatch up land in different metaverses. So Decentraland is the first one that they've actually signed a deal in. They're going to have a digital embassy there where people can visit via their avatars and get e-visas. It's unclear what those e-visas will grant access to, but there is a quote here from the Barbados ambassador to the UAE. He said, embassies are the starting point to getting a visa to enter a country or visa-free travel. Can you imagine what that would look like virtually and where that e-visa could lead you to? And so when I think about this, I think about metaverses as borderless and barrier-free, and it feels like we're now adding those barriers and borders back and really not allowing that access that we speak about so much. But Zach, I don't know if I've explained it to you like you're 5 years old, but that's my understanding of it.
No, that was pretty good. I appreciate that, and I think you're spot on, right? Like, are we recreating like national identity in the metaverse now? I don't know, like nationalism and like national identity like in virtual worlds. Like that's weird to me, but I don't know. I'll throw it to Anna for this one. She probably has thoughts.
Yeah, I think the whole concept of visas for metaverse sounds scary. And if you think that other nations might follow the suit and establish their presence in the metaverse, and you would one day walk into this Decentraland and be like, oh, this is Chinese territory and this is, Chilean territory. And this I maybe avoid because this country denied me an actual visa one day. And now, maybe I'm not a persona non grata in the Decentraland version of it. But in a sense of nice, cool PR, good for Barbados, I guess.
It's interesting to see them thinking about this at the national level. I mean, to their credit, they're trying to get ahead of this thing. But yeah, super interesting to see how nation states are going to interact with the metaverse. I wasn't expecting to see that so soon. So for Barbados to get out on the bleeding edge here, hats off. Will, all yours.
But I was going to think, just based on Anna's statement, that it's funny how nations are thinking of this in the same way that nations think of themselves, like geopolitically here. But for everyone who's in Web3 or into metaverse stuff, they don't quite think of things like that. They do think of things in terms of like, I own this property and you're gonna have to buy it from me, and like you can buy a beachfront house in Decentraland, which is just like a very weird idea. But now we're having embassies, and like you have to have a visa to go to different parts of like this decentralized world, or does like the visa give you the ability to like kind of go through the processes of doing things in the real world space, kind of like we saw with that South Korea place the other day. Is that what it's like, Jen?
It's unclear what's going to happen. When I read the story, it felt like the e-visa was possibly going to just give you access to Barbados in the metaverse, different aspects of Barbados. Maybe you could go on a digital tour. That wasn't said in the story, but that was my impression of it. If the e-visa gave physical access to different aspects of Barbados, I think that would make more sense to me, but I guess we'll see how this plays out. They only signed the contract yesterday with Decentraland.
But forget visas. Imagine countries going on a cyber war against each other for the piece of virtual land in the future.
True.
Could be entertaining, that's for sure. Could also be very stressful.
That's one word.
We'll see how
Just
it goes.
don't find yourself.
Wait, we don't know where we're going to find ourselves in the metaverse in 3 years' time. Who knows?
Yeah,
All
watch
right,
this space.
Watch this
meet with Zuck.
space for Metaverse World Wars coming to you soon. All right, cool. Anyway, stick with us. It's the Hash. We're going to take a break. When we get back, we're going to talk about Taproot. Taproot happened. Bitcoin. Taproot. Anna's going to break down for us when we get back on the other side of the break. Stick with us. It's the Hash. Happy Monday.
So from big money and big politics, I guess, let's switch to some big technology news, which don't seem quite that big on the surface, but are actually huge. So this Sunday, early in the morning, it's just about midnight in the US, actually was, I think, the Bitcoin Taproot upgrade activated. And it's interesting and important for a bunch of reasons. Taproot improves Bitcoin's privacy and scalability. It makes Bitcoin more compatible with more complex functionalities like smart contracts. But what makes Taproot interesting today, especially, it's how it's been implemented, actually how any update on Bitcoin is implemented. And it's good to remember that Bitcoin is a decentralized system, which means everything happens really slow. So the upgrade was first suggested in 2018. This year, in June, the majority of Bitcoin miners signaled their support for the upgrade. And now every node on the Bitcoin network needs to upgrade to switch to Taproot. So, it's interesting in a sense. It reminds us what a huge and complex global experiment Bitcoin is. Because, with all the money news, all the ETFs and all-time highs and bull runs and the Bitcoin price going to the moon, it's easy to forget what actually makes this unique. It's decentralization. And it reminds you that the actual democracy is real slow. Like when you have a decentralized network of developers, then a decentralized network of miners, then a decentralized network of users, any change comes really slow. But when this journey is over, the result is an actual community decision. But can you imagine Apple or Google taking a couple of years to implement an upgrade? That's what, that's what kind of fascinating about this. What do you guys think?
Did anyone stay up for it Sunday night? Zach, I know you stayed up real late to watch those blocks come in, right? No?
I was asleep. I was 100% asleep.
Oh, lame.
Only you, Will.
Lame.
Only you.
Will,
Yeah,
did you have a watch party? Did you have a watch party?
Did you upgrade your node, Will?
Oh, this is embarrassing. I don't currently run a node. So next question. It's funny. I mind, but I do not run a node. I really should run a node too. But I will say you don't have to upgrade. I think that's a cool part of this update itself is it kind of shows what Bitcoin's value proposition is. And that's like anyone can use this money. You can use almost the very first Satoshi software that came out in 2009. It's probably better to use like something in 2010 or 2011, but you can use that software and it still syncs with Bitcoin today over a decade later. And that means if you have money from all the way back then, it still works as money today. So it doesn't matter if you use Taproot or not. Taproot has some cool new functionalities for Bitcoin. It's really going to help people who are developing wallets or block explorers or other things built on top of Bitcoin. It doesn't really help anyone out who's just kind of moving Bitcoin for money. But I think that's a good value because you want your money to always stay the same. And we see that often with like that 21 million value rule in Bitcoin, where there's only going to be 21 million Bitcoins ever. And I think a corollary to that rule is that your Bitcoin will always be your Bitcoin. It's not going to change. The rules are always going to be the same. It doesn't matter what update comes along. You can always use it. Jen, I'll throw it up to you.
Now I need to be educated like I'm 5 years old. I know that there is a privacy implication. Yeah, thank you, Zach. There's some privacy implication with the update, right? And it has to do with smart contracts and the transactions being easier to, I don't want to say hide, but hide for lack of a better word. Can someone explain to me how this works?
Give it to Anna.
So it has to do with the cryptography that Bitcoin uses, as far as I understand it, and it's kind of an enhanced way of transactions being signed when they are written into the blockchain, and the way it's arranged makes transactions lighter, so you can improve the throughput of the network, and it also improves the privacy of transactions and adds all those cool things that were also mentioned. So, but if you really need to go into the weeds of it's really complex stuff. Like sometimes I need to read these technical articles several times to understand what they mean. But it's really cool that this technology is now underlining Bitcoin and makes, as Will mentioned, makes cool things available to even people who don't understand a thing about it.
Yeah, just to add on one last thought, I think a lot of people are saying like Bitcoin has smart contracts because of Taproot, but that's just like not true. It does add some functionality for building more complex things like wallets, but for right now, it's really just a technical change to underlying protocol that helps developers and also strengthens like the cryptography basically. So nothing a lot of people are going to interact with, but it strengthens Bitcoin as like a money network. Zach, I'll throw it to you though.
All right, let's change gears. Let's go to the land of DeFi. Welcome to DeFi, everybody. We're talking about airdrop season. Airdrop season continues apace. There's a bit of a cottage industry these days about which project is going to airdrop tokens next. And the project that did that most recently is Paraswap. This comes on the heels of the ENS airdrop, which got people pretty hype. If you had a .eth name, you got a lot of tokens in that airdrop. The Paraswap airdrop, quite interesting in that it's much more targeted of an airdrop. Only like less than 1% of people who ever interacted with Paraswap, the platform, are eligible to claim these tokens. So more interesting sort of nuance and thought going into how these token distributions occur. But let's talk about it as we get into airdrop winter. Will, is there a name for airdrop season?
We can make
I think
a name.
It is just like airdrop season. It's like
just like airdrop season. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
airdrop season.
Wait, did you say
airdrop
season? Winter?
Because they used to be.
Airdrop winter doesn't sound good. No, it's like it would be sad.
That'd be bad.
We need to
Sounds
think about
bearish.
It's bad because like you get taxed a lot.
We're gonna have to think about this one. Yeah, not eligible to U.S. users, and you have to meet certain user qualification, like user threshold for being eligible to claim this thing, so that you can't just like use it once and then get free money. The idea that the Paraswap team is rolling out here is that we need to give this to our most dedicated users so that they can properly administer governance of this platform moving forward. So I'm going to toss this to Jen. I saw your hand go up. We'll throw it to you.
Yeah, so I was reading more about this morning, and it was interesting to me, like you were saying, how much thought went into this, and how they decided on how they were going to reward engaged engaged users. So there's a quote from a blog that was posted on Medium this morning, and they said, why should a random whale who came one day before the snapshot date to swap 1,000 ETH at once get more tokens than an average user making frequent 1 to 5 ETH swaps on Paraswap for more than 2 years? Then they added that their goal was to find their most engaged users, ones who make sensible token swaps, and reward them. And I wanted to ask you guys, like, do you think that this is a look into the future, into how airdrops might play out? Or is it just going to be volume-based like we've seen in the past?
The future of airdrops. Tough question.
I think it is. I think it is. I think these are going to get more nuanced. I think the idea that like, you give like the Uniswap airdrop, right? That was like, like summer of 2020? That was like anyone who had ever touched Uniswap in any way, shape, or form received some tokens, right? And I think what people are trying to do now is avoid this concept of like free money, instead of like in favor of sort of engaged users. Now, the flip side of that is there's a lot of pissed off people here who like, there's like 1 million or something wallets that have interacted with this platform over the last 2 years, and less than 1% of them got these token rewards. So there's a lot of people who are saying, hey, why didn't I make the cut? So it's interesting, like, it's interesting to think about engaged communities may necessarily exclude certain participants who had used the platform in the past. And you're seeing people on Twitter being like, I'm never using Paraswap again. Like, screw those guys. I didn't get my PSP. I'm gone. I'm going to go use some other stuff. So interesting to like weigh those trade-offs, but we'll see if other teams follow this path going forward, because there's certainly a lot of other speculated airdrops to come. But I'll toss this to Will.
Yeah, just to take like a dorky DeFi take on it for a second. It's fascinating that they chose to do this versus some of the other projects that we've seen airdrop out there. Uniswap was kind of like the airswap most people think about, even though it wasn't the first. But almost anyone who had interacted with the Uniswap contract, even if it had been a failed token swap, received a decent amount of Uni tokens. And if you had a bunch of wallets that interacted with it, all those wallets got Uni tokens. And so it was a huge amount of money that went out there through this token project. ENS was one that happened the other week. Anyone who had a ENS name also got tokens. This one took a different trajectory, and I think it was a good idea that they did it. They necessarily limited it. And that 20,000 person number actually doesn't seem very wrong if you kind of look at these projects and understand like how wallets work and how people spoof things. There's always like this number that there's like millions of DeFi users. Well, there's really not. There's a lot of wallets that people have, and some people have 50 wallets, some people have 100 wallets, some people have 1 wallet. And if you try to like create some parameters, protect how many tokens go out there, it's probably better for the project in the long run, and people aren't just getting air rich for nothing.
Airdrop season. Watch out, everybody. Stay safe out there. Watch for the parachutes coming down, and don't get smushed by any tokens unwittingly. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, well, that's the show for today. It's been a Monday show. We'll be back for the Tuesday show tomorrow. It'll be cool. I'm Zach. We got Will. We got Jen. We got Hannah. Thanks for being here today. We're the Hash. CoinDesk.com, here for you 24/7. Check it out. A lot of great stuff to read. CoinDesk TV, back at you, 3 p.m. Eastern, with all about Bitcoin. I think they're going to be talking about taproot, so that'll be fun. Check that out if you're into it, and we will see you tomorrow. Thanks a lot. It's the Hash. Bye.